forensic consultant. He's our Forensics for Justice, Paul O'Sullivan. Thanks very much for coming to studio, Paul. What's your response, first of all, to what we've just heard from Leranzu, what Kgomoto Phahlane had to say in court today, that this whole situation with his arrest today is in fact just a setup, it's a process that's designed to humiliate him, and it reeks of point scoring?
Well, you know, I think all criminals have to come up with a story to defend their criminal conduct. Eventually, when they're brought to justice, you know what Jackie Selebi said to the court over a period of a year and a half was that he was in court because Paul O'Sullivan had a vendetta against him. Phahlane has been saying this now for, I think, 3 years. So it's got nothing to do with a vendetta. Forensics for Justice is out to clean up the criminal justice system. That's very clear on our website. We've made it crystal clear. We're a charity. And we're a charity that doesn't pull punches. If you're involved in criminal activity, especially corruption using state resources, and we get wind of it, we're going to investigate it, and you will face a justice system. And it doesn't matter who you are or how high up you are in the police. This is now the second chief of police that we've been involved in taking down, and I have absolutely no doubt, without going into the merits of the case, that at the end of the day, the courts will make a relevant decision and justice will keep turning. But Mr. Phahlane, if he and his corrupt colleagues in the police had been doing their work over the last few years, state capture as a project of a large criminal syndicate would have failed 4, 5, 6 years ago. But they had captured the criminal justice system first. And they had people like Phahlane and Klemeza, Abrahams and many others, Jiba, Mwebi, Mdluli. All these people were in the pockets of the criminals. And it's because of that that this country is in the mess it's in today. Your blackouts today, you can blame on people like Phahlane. If they were doing their jobs, they would have been chasing after these criminals instead of lining their own pockets.
Well, that's the thing about it, isn't it? Is that whether or not you have a vendetta against any of these people, at the end of the day, the court will consider forensic information it has before it regarding these dodgy deals, these dodgy tenders with millions of rand.
Well, that's exactly the case. We got wind of this, strangely enough, we first got attention on this company, Traffic Law Enforcement, they call themselves, and they supply blue lights. We got wind of them, I think probably as far as 6 or 7 years ago. And what happened was I met with a disgruntled staff member who had left, who gave me a whole lot of photographs of what was going on at the company. But I couldn't get any further evidence. So I took all that information and I parked it. And then with the Phahlane investigation, which we started now, it's more than 3 years ago. Okay, so the docket, in fact, that I opened against Phahlane was on the 23rd of February, 2016. So that's 3 years and a week ago. So after I opened that initial docket against Phahlane, we started getting more information. When it went out in the media, other people came forward and they gave us information. Last year, we were contacted by somebody from this company, Traffic Law Enforcement. Now, this company was clearly, I remembered my previous contact with them. So I dug out my old files. And then what we did, we decided to infiltrate. So we got a person, we trained him, and we put him inside the company. So we are absolutely 100% satisfied that the information that we have received, which we've immediately passed on to IPID, so we've not made any decisions about when or how Phahlane will be arrested or charged, or
well, you can't,
or the other pillar. Yes, pillar. But Phahlane seems to grant me this this supreme power that that I've changed the name of IPID to OPID. You know, what he doesn't realize is I don't have any vendetta against him. I've never met the man. I saw him for the first time in court. Despite the fact that he sent dirty cops after me to kidnap my assistant and to, or my attorney rather, and to have me kidnapped and arrested on fake charges. Attempt with dirty prosecutors to have me charged with, I don't know, 30 or 40 charges of racketeering. Anybody can see from my bank statements, I'm not involved in any unlawful activity. I might occasionally park in the wrong place and get a ticket or something like that, but I'm not engaged in any wholesale fraud and corruption like Phahlane and his accomplices are.
So He's talking about the sort of coincidence around Robert McBride, the decision that
Good morning, masterminds. It's early morning. We wanted to record before the case start so that we could be able to analyze the evidence that's going to be led in court this morning. So please, you know what to do when you come in the house. Njabulo is also here. He just played us a video of the famous Robert McBride. I don't know what is the intention behind this video, and Jabs will come in and explain.
No, Paul.
No. Let me retract. Not, I heard the name. Sorry, I heard the name Robert McBride, and just my mind ran with it. No, it's not Robert McBride in the video. It's the famous Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, the forensic investigator. So I don't know what is the intention. And Jabulo will come in and he will explain to us why did he play us that video. And Jabs, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Sis Pat. Yes, we played the video because remember yesterday we were busy with the conversations about forensic lab and the DNA. Mm. Now but at the same time we're analyzing Senzo Mewa's case. Now, it's very important because a person during Senzo Mewa's case who was responsible for forensic labs was General Pahlan. Yes. Now, we know now through direct and indirect information whether with the Senzo Mewa case, whether common people like people that have relationship with other people that worked on the Renovan Crutch. We saw most of those police officers or government officials, almost 90% of the government officials that were responsible on the Renovan Crutch matter are definitely in the Senzo Mewa case. Yes. But the strange thing is they were not in the house. Exactly. Now, most of those witnesses are police officers. Mm. Now, what I like about Paul O'Sullivan is that, anyway, my other name is Paul.
Okay.
Is that yes? So he doesn't mince his words. Mm. He doesn't mince his words. Now, I like that he says that he had a 3-year project to investigate a former acting police commissioner. Now, it's fine. I accept that. Mm. Now, well, whether we agree, whether we like it or we don't like it, if you ask me whether do I like it, I won't comment on that. But I accept it because any element of corruption needs to be dealt with. Mm. Now, it's Pahlan who's responsible for forensic laboratories of South Africa. Now, Paul O'Sullivan has an NGO, a company that deals with forensics. Mm-hmm. But then now, because I said we are on the board of the Senzo Mewa case, where 90% of the police officers who work on a Renovan Crutch, we're now finding them through witnesses that the information comes to feature to be evidence on the Senzo Mewa case. Now, hence I played Paul O'Sullivan because the lead investigator in this case worked closely with Paul O'Sullivan to make sure that Ronavin Krecher is arrested.
Yes.
Mind you, that's a lead investigator on Senzo Mayo. Who's the common person now on the outside is Paul O'Sullivan, because now, my analysis, I need to reference a common factor so that I can create certain links.
Okay.
Now, most police officers, they fear Paul O'Sullivan. He even said himself, he said police officers are giving him these powers that he doesn't know. Maybe it could be his ability to investigate, to infiltrate, that it means that he may have data or information about everybody. Like we've seen him over the past few years when the General Commissioner was being arrested. So the General Commissioner, Selebi, was being arrested. That's one. Yes. And then number two, also, when we saw him recently, the comment on General Masemol, the current commissioner, when he was saying that he should have not been appointed, he pointed all his personal behavior. Remember, that's personal life. That's personal life of the current general. He brought it to the media. I'm not going to bring the thing here.
Even on General Libya, the outgoing head of the Hawks, he also profiled him, did a lifestyle audit on him.
Yes. Now, what I want to provoke you on something here. Maybe you will have, your mind will trigger something. Now, if then O'Sullivan was close with Kininda on the Ronavin Krecher matter, and Kininda is inside Pagati of the Senzo Mewa case. Also, Paul O'Sullivan was responsible for blocking the possible escape of Ronavin Krecher from Zonderwater prison, who was also the head of security in Zonderwater prison, is Mr. Yaga, who came in the Senzo Mewa case as a witness from Kalagabush. Now, do you see now?
Yes.
Who's a reference that is outside? It's Paul O'Sullivan and his information. Now, we're hearing stories that Kininda is being feared in the police office, in the SAPS. Could it be that is feared because it's being associated as being closer to Paul O'Sullivan?
That is something to chew on. That is something to chew on. It's possible because, yes, we have heard stories about how even senior management is afraid of Kininda. And we also know that police officers, even senior management, is afraid of Paul O'Sullivan. That might be true.
Yeah.
And I heard Paul O'Sullivan mention that if you are involved in wrongdoing, in corruption, in crime, it doesn't matter who you are. He's going to come for you, and he's going to investigate you, and he's going to profile you. That's what he said. I heard that.
Yes, I know that he doesn't have friends.
I didn't know that, but you telling us that we now know that he and Kininda has a kind of a relationship from the time of the Ronavin Krecher matter.
Yes, it's not just any. They work together. They travel. They travel overseas trips for them to actually close. Remember, as an IO, as an investigating officer, you do everything that you need to do to solve the case. So in this instance, that's what basically was actually happening, where they work hand to hand to close down on Ronavin Krecher. Now, you been shared information, whether rightly or wrongly, about Gininda. Have you even asked, maybe, have you ever asked Paul O'Sullivan to have a look at that information? Because I know if something is wrong,
He's going to go
it
for it.
doesn't feel
That's what
sad.
he said. He's going to go for it. Now, you are right. I have exposed a lot of corruption where Gininda's name have been mentioned, where Gininda have been implicated. I myself have reported cases to IPID where Gininda have been implicated. And you are right. I'm going now to publicly challenge Paul O'Sullivan to also profile Gininda and do a public lifestyle audit on Gininda like he did on Jackie Sillery, like he did on Phatlhane, like he did on Masimula, like he did on Libya. I'm now challenging Paul O'Sullivan publicly so that he can prove to us that he will go after anyone who are being implicated in wrongdoing, as me, as Patricia Mashale, already implicated Gininda in wrongdoing. I'm publicly challenging him to do a public profile and lifestyle audit on Brigadier Bongani Nicholas Gininda. Let me see if he's going to take my challenge. If he's going to stand by his word and accept my challenge.
Good luck on that, Jane. No, good luck on that, Jane. Let's continue with the DNA.
At the end of the day, it doesn't depend on me. It does depend on his word. He said it publicly that he will go after anyone who are being implicated, no matter who that person is, no matter that person's rank, no matter how high up that person is. At the end of the day, it depends. It all depends on him and his word. So, as you say, let's proceed with the business of the day.
Yes. So we spoke yesterday about what we've gone through different cases where General Phatlhane was quoted stating certain things about the Senzo Meyiwa case, basically. I'm gonna suspect another article, because this issue of the forensic lab and this issue of DNA, it needs to be dealt with correctly, because currently what is happening in Reuters Court, it's an embarrassment to our forensic lab, which our forensic lab has high standard, of which when I recall Mnisi during a cross-examination of, I think was Rolofse, he said, so are you saying this in this highly respected institution, things can just go in and out without being recorded? He says, then our country is in trouble. And he didn't know that we'll get to a space of DNA where now a competent person was clear on his statement about DNA. But then for some odd reason, the court, the lawyers, find it proper to analyze the scientific evidence. When a scientific evidence is provided in court, it is provided as an objective evidence. The same way that lawyers don't want us to talk about their acts, their processes, they must stay away from analyzing technical and scientific evidence. Let me flight this newspaper articles. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Suspect, can you see it?
I can
Yes.
see. I can see.
Now, can you read the date when the newspaper is, and just read the
12 October
the
2016.
newspaper.
And then police don't need outside help in Senzo case Patlani. Cape Town police do not need help solving the murder of Bafana Bafana Captain Senzo Miwa. Acting National Police Commissioner Khomotso Patlani told Parliament on Wednesday. The SAPS is more than capable of dealing with this matter, he told the Police Portfolio Committee. We need no one outside of the SAPS to investigate this case, but we will desist from. But what we will desist from is doing an investigation through the media. Patlani was addressing MPs about the police annual report when the topic of Miwa's murder was raised.
Now, that's one part. So that's a confident commissioner saying that we are more than capable of that. The reason for that comment was that there was a Senzo Meyiwa family. There was work that was done previously by a services of an external company. Can you read this part? This was an external company, and these are the comments that were written. Can you read this thing so that we can bring context to where? Yeah, you can start that the case is classified.
The case is classified. Can you go up again? Can you go up again? Okay. A case is classified as a cold case when there are no new substantial leads and all previous leads have dried up and turned to nothing. This is a 2017 article. With a murder case, more than other types of crimes, you have a window of 48 hours in which to develop your leads and hopefully arrest the suspect. Every hour that passes after the first 48 hours makes it less likely to an arrest will be made and the case solved. The case in which Senzo Miwa was murdered is now dragged on for more than 2 years and 6 months, which equates to approximately 22,000 hours. Neither the police nor the Hawks have much chance of solving this murder, especially when you consider a statement in April 2016 by Acting National Police Commissioner at the time, Lieutenant General Khomotso Patlani, when he told Parliament that there is a possible cover-up in the case. The problems with the case right from the beginning. The crime scene was not immediately secured by first responding officers. People were allowed to enter and exit the crime scene at will, corrupting the crime scene. Police failed to confiscate 2 cell phones belonging to Mthokozisi Twala. Standard forensic procedures related to crime scene were not followed. For example, no gunpowder residue tests were done on the people who were present in the house at the time of the murder. That should have been done to everyone at the scene because it helps in eliminating them as suspects. The police caved to public and political pressure, which caused them to arrest the wrong person. The docket has been a ping-pong ball bounced between provincial SAPS, forced SAPS, and Hawks. Unfortunately for the family, the case is now cold, and it will take investigators who specialize in cold cases to solve this case. Because of the time that has passed, it is going to take some specialized skill and a lot of time to now solve these cases. But with specialists, it's possible.
Now, do you see that newspaper articles? Mouthful, hands-on in terms of the issues that the police are actually facing with on this case itself. That's in 2017. Now, that also going against the statement that somebody have briefed the National Commissioner previously and said, we are almost ready with the case. The DNA in the head has been actually assisted them to identify.
Identify.
Now that means now a year later, and they're even saying that the docket has been moving up and down. Now, tell me, they mentioned these things. What your comment on the specific on that firm that comments specifically that what the police have failed to do within the 24-hour window period?
The police had failed to secure the crime scene. The most important thing, there's a question that I have always asked in jobs. Why did this was a firearm incident? There was a shooting. There were people present at the shooting, and it means that gunpowder residue was released during the shooting. The first thing that should have happened is that everyone that were present in that incident should have been tested for gunpowder residue to eliminate them from this crime. All the points that were raised in that article, it seems like it was deliberate acts of defeating the ends of justice on the part of the police. Or like Patlani said, it was a deliberate cover-up. That's what Patlani said. And he was the acting national commissioner, meaning that he was the person who received the report from the investigators who informed him that we are ready to make an arrest because we identify the DNA on the head. From the interview of Paul O'Sullivan, just coincidentally, this was a statement from Patlani in 2016. And I heard Paul O'Sullivan said he opened a docket against Patlani in 2016.
I don't know whether
this is just an observation because they stick into my mind. He said it clearly. I opened a docket against Patlani in May 2016. That's what he said. Patlani went to Parliament in 2016 and he tells Parliament in 2016 that there was a deliberate cover-up.
Yes.
Now, my mind refused to let go of what I'm thinking. Is it possible that because of Patlani's remarks to Parliament about a cover-up, that a docket was now being opened and he was being investigated? I don't say Patlani didn't do anything wrong. I don't say that he's still in court. There's no judgment yet. I don't say that, but I'm asking, does that docket that has been opened against Patlani relate to these remarks of Patlani to the Portfolio Committee of Police? It's a question. I don't know what are you thinking, but I'm asking the masterminds, what do you think about this?
Let's do this thing. Now that you are asking that, let's see if maybe we can find something here.
And I think police in South Africa. The police mandate is clearly articulated in the Constitution. Security people must play their role in securing the area where they are. We have got no reason not to be working together. When we talk about visibility, security plays a part in that regard. So, as the Minister said, the powers to effect arrest, citizen arrest, cannot be taken away from the security. But I think we need to be working together and not go to an extent of the powers of the police to be given to everyone, because then we don't have a reason to exist. In as far as the killing of the police, attacks on the police. We are on record as having said that we considered it to be an attack on the authority of the state. We did say that we are not going to pronounce what measures we have put in place. But what is encouraging is that which we are doing, we are beginning to see the paying, some dividends, that there is a scale down in that regard. But also what is more encouraging is that those that kill the police within short turnaround times, arrested in the Northwest Hartbeespoort 2 weeks ago. An officer was killed. 2 days, in actual fact, within the 48 hours, 7 people were arrested. All those firearms were found. And by the way, while I'm talking about that, there was a report of firearms and grenades from the naval base in
right,
the Western Cape, Simonstown,
right.
which was in the media a day. We have effected an arrest. We have recovered all those firearms and grenades. I'm mentioning that because this will be some of those that will be used in the killing and attack of the police. So on this one,
So I didn't get him to actually comment on the comments on. He actually makes a comment as well on the Senzo Meyiwa case. But this is quite interesting that every time when either a commissioner, a police leader, once we start to get used to him saying the right things that resonate with the police or becomes visible, something comes through. I will count. Celebi was doing good for the police, Interpol, and everything. Something bad came. General Cele, yes, those was doing good with the police. There was like a stretch of almost 12 months where there was no cash in transit heist, and then something bad happened to him about signing a contract at the back of the boot, and he gets to be removed. And we get now to Pierre, where again was introduced an administrator who could see people starting moving. The police politics was not controlling the media. And then once there's a develop that we're getting used to this new administrator, the leader, something bad to Pierre, it gets to be assigned with the operational issue and is removed. So is now as this acting commissioner, Patlan, started being visible, talking harsh, making decisive decision, committing himself into responding, and was willing to account in front of the public, and something bad happened to him. Now, even General Sithole, we're getting used to his theories about strategies and everything like that. Him wearing different attire, he will wear a different coat. When he's in combat, you'll see him wearing a different attire or police tunic at sometimes formal event. We're getting used to General Sithole, and then something happened to him about the buying of devices and everything like that. You see, so these things, it means that there is another force that doesn't want police services to work, because now, even now in KZN, we're getting excited and getting happy of the provincial PC that is doing work. And then now bad things are coming left, right, and center against him. And the list is endless on these things, especially. So I think it wants us as South Africans to be in a position where we are able to stand for the truth. We are able to critically analyze things as they are. Hence, we're saying now in Ratha's court that lawyers must stay away from scientific evidence. And they must not dare, if they want to question, they must not even bring back the curtain. They must subpoena. We showed you the organogram of forensic lab. There is a general there or a brigadier or a senior manager that is responsible for the head of quality management in the laboratory. Our forensic lab is an institution that complies with all the standards. There is a standard which is ISO 170-25, which has to do with the calibration of equipment and all of those things. So, in closing, Suspect, with regards to Senzo Mewa case, the DNA evidence does not lie. If it says these people were not there, it means they are excluded. The question is, in 2006, where is the match of DNA, of the head DNA against the people who were in the house?
I also want to say, even in the Senzo Mewa case, something bad happened to people who are trying to expose the rot in this case. I want to encourage MISI to subpoena the DNA evidence of 2014. It's the only DNA evidence that is now relevant in this case. Nothing else. Masterminds, we are getting ourselves ready for a case. We will proceed later after the case. Have yourself a good day. Those who are at work, enjoy. See you later. Bye-bye, Njab. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, sis. Bye.